What do you think about AI and pitch deck design?
I don't think it's so much of a worry.
What is a pitch deck?
A pitch deck essentially is,
How many pages should it be?
the decks that we've done a lot, it seems like headshots are very important. If someone provides you something that doesn't look very professional, it's gonna bring the value of your deck down, your brand down, your value down. You want to make sure that everything is consistent. We're not really redesigning the wheel.
Hey everyone, I'm super pumped. We have Ali Saai, our graphic designer today, and we're going to go through what it is to create a pitch deck. Ali's a specialist in design. Myself, I usually handle project management, and we're going to get a lot of great information for you today. So without any further ado, we've got Ali right here. Ali, how long have you been graphic designing for, bro?
Yeah, graphic design for like 10 plus years. With me moving to Vancouver and working with yourself, we've done a lot of work. A lot of work with different clients, different projects. I think it's interesting working with people and seeing what they have and what they don't have. And yeah, we've definitely changed the way we're working, which I mean, you have to evolve as a business. The process for yourself, like when you're working with clients, how's it for you? And like getting that first interaction with the client and then handing it over.
Well, obviously you do a lot of the design work and a lot of that, right? But on my end, it's just project management, right? So I don't, I don't do too much of it.
No, I feel you, man. Like I've been, like, when I'm sitting in conversations and listening to you speak to the client, you're very good at like picking information and getting what we need to make my process easier.
Yeah, and that's a key. Honestly, that's a key for anyone who is designing pitch decks. Is like time is money, and you can charge a lot of money and have like a really slow process and have you can take your sweet time, but a lot of small businesses are focused, let's be real, on cutting costs, having a pitch deck for maybe a few $1,000s instead of $10,000. So on my end, I am very focused on getting right into what people want and need. People aren't going to come back unless they love the deck. So I think customization through the process has to be your focus. And I think it's one thing we've done well over the years. But yeah, with AI coming in, that's the biggest, I don't know if it's a threat or if it's a tool, but maybe you can touch on that, Ali. I just see like people's budgets when it comes to decks being a little bit tighter. What do you think about AI in pitch deck design? Like, is it something we can use and leverage, or is it
for pitch decks? I don't think it's so much of a worry. AI definitely seems to be an assisting tool, and with design, especially like not for us, but maybe smaller freelance designers that don't have as big of a team. Like obviously we've got a team, so we're able to like speak to each other and help each other out when need be. A lot of the freelance designers that are working independently, they're going to need assistance because they don't have the time resources to be able to go speak to someone. So if they're on ChatGPT and they're looking for information, to give them some ideas for brainstorming, that would definitely help. I don't see how we could utilize AI for the design creativity, but definitely for like ideation for sure.
When it comes to AI, are there any tools that you just absolutely love when designing decks?
My main thing that I'm using is ChatGPT for like, if there's copy that I don't have time to think of and write about, I'm going to ask it to help assist me. So I'll give it a prompt. When we've done a brand guideline, like a 1 or 2 pager, and I'm trying to give information on how they use their logos. If I'm like, I don't have time to come up with a sentence, I'll get it to write the most condensed, clear sentence, and from that I'll adapt it myself to obviously make it work for our language and how we speak to clients. And
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
So for everyone who doesn't know, what is a pitch deck? Here to explain what it is.
So pitch deck essentially is it's not necessarily just a pitch deck, right? It's a presentation deck. So what is the presentation deck being used for? It can be used for pitch. It can be used to present information. you want essentially your pitch. I say pitch deck. You want your deck to essentially be able to be an extension of who you are and your business. If I've spoken to you in person and the conversation's gone great, when I leave, you may forget some of the stuff I've spoken to you about, and you may not have like explored the website or seen what our visual language is. You get the deck and you look at it, say a day later, you're gonna remember and you're gonna think about the things I've said, but also, oh, okay, so this is how they visually look, and these images that they use. Oh, I do associate with these images. I don't associate with these images. We have a lot of like connection when we see color and like imagery and the influence that has on our decision making.
Yeah, that's a great point about from the visual standpoint, right? Like we are visual and physical beings, right? So that's kind of the edge that I think a pitch deck will have on a business plan, is that it's visual. The pitch deck is visual. It's shorter, so you can save time on it. And I don't know myself, I like to read, but I don't love to read. So seeing images, graphs, and everything done in a concise way, it saves you a lot of time. So I think it's very attractive for a lot of people. So how many pages can a pitch deck be, and how many should it be? Because I know the Guy Kawasaki gang, there's a lot of older folks who just live and die by a deck has to be 10 pages, because Guy Kawasaki made his famous point about that. What are your thoughts on how many pages a deck should be?
Yeah, 10 to 15 is good. Like the decks that we've done a lot, it seems like 10 to 15 with the amount of information that people have, and you want to give people a feel for a pitch deck, 10 to 15 pages.
Sweet spot right there.
Yeah.
15-page slide.
Yeah, front and back included. I think
anything over it gets into a bit of a story, right? It gets
it's too much information, like
novel.
Yeah, because you don't. When someone's skimming through the information, they want to be able to think back to what they spoke about, and these points that are in the deck, that they're concise. Like a client that I was working with recently, or we were working with recently, like having a 25-page deck is a bit much. And then condensing it down to 15 pages, it makes it a more short, condensed version. Because if you're going to have loads of pages, you may as well at that point have a business plan. Which is what we have. But the pitch deck, I think definitely having it 15 pages, is that sweet spot.
Ali's making me want us to update our pitch deck. As you're speaking, I'm brainstorming, going, we really need a pitch deck, or an updated pitch deck for that matter. So 10 to 15 pages for a deck. And what is the thesis going into it? Is it, we're giving you this to build intrigue? Is it, we're building this deck out to offer to someone, like the audience of the client, so that they can convert and raise money? Or is it different every time? Like what is the scope behind a deck?
Yeah, that's what I've mentioned before. So sometimes it can be informative. Sometimes it can be you're trying to gain capital. If you are gaining capital, you want to make sure, obviously, you have all your charts, all your year financials, but not too much, right? You want to have it as an overview,
right?
And that way, if someone wants to inquire more, that's why you, on your thank you page, you would at the end of the deck, you would have your contact information. So they want to find out more information about what they need. They get in touch with you. But for the most part, it is having an overview of everything that you're trying to generally present and pitch for.
All the high level pieces. What type of an organization should be leveraging a deck? Is it everything from a city to a small business? Or in your experience, what kind of companies come to BSBCON and are looking for decks? Do we just focus on a specific industry? Are we industry agnostic? Who do we work with?
Yeah, we work with a wide array of clients. We've done a lot of decks with companies that are doing tech, warehouse automation. We actually done a lot of like tech companies with warehouse automation, and fashion companies. So it really can vary
Definitely.
on who needs a pitch deck.
Awesome.
How about for yourself? Like when people are getting in touch, do you find yourself filtering through who we need to work with?
For sure. So honestly, that's the coolest thing about what we do is that we work with everyone. Like there's maybe a handful of industries that we wouldn't work in for more reasons, but other than that, we work with everything you can imagine. It's great because it's always something new and something interesting. And on that, our process, right? What does that look like from the beginning to the end? I'm just going to touch on client intake and whatnot, and then let's dive into step one.
Sure.
So typically somebody will reach out, either an existing client or somebody completely brand new. On that point, a lot of our leads come from SEO, but that's changing. So we're adapting with the market on that. But somebody will reach out either by phone or by submitting a contact form on our site. We'll get to know a little bit about what they're looking to do. One important thing to note, and to make everyone feel a little bit better, is most people are developing things last minute and they're time sensitive. That's what I've noticed is pretty much every client is time sensitive. And once we kick off a consulting agreement, initial invoice, and we're live, then we send off a kickoff email. And what's our biggest goal, Ali, once the project is live? What are you looking to do? What do we do?
Yeah, I think sitting down, speaking with the client, asking questions that will help us know what we need to get for the business plan. And then from the business plan, really taking all that information and finding the key information needed for their deck and finding out what it is they want for their deck. Like we said, is it a pitch? Are they pitching, or are they trying to gain capital? Yeah, once we've got all the information down, we're then able to also ask about their branding. And I think what's really interesting is the more we're working with each other, like from when we first started working with each other and figuring it out in a sense, where we were almost applying the brand guideline in the pitch deck, we've now started to slightly shift that, right? Where we're slowly introducing and finding out more about the brand in the kickoff meeting, and then taking that into the pitch deck.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's something new that we've kind of broken out is we were providing a lot of value at the beginning in that the pitch deck basically created the brand guidelines for a company.
Yeah.
And people were leveraging it, which is great for the clients. But what we've done since then is we've taken a little bit more of a structured approach in breaking up the two projects. So when we do something, we want to do it right the first time. And with restricted budgets, it can be very challenging to basically create a company's brand guidelines and a pitch deck all in one project. So can you dive into that a little bit about our new process in developing pitch decks and at the same time also offering brand identity and brand guidelines as a part of it, as a part of the project?
Yeah, definitely. If the budget, if it works with the budget, for sure, we will sit down and speak about your brand, the tone of language, who are your competitors, because this is what I've realized as well. A lot of times we're not really redesigning the wheel. It seems more so that marketing is very important when it comes to business and like getting your voice out, but we're not reinventing the wheel. So it's looking at your competitors, seeing where do you fit in, what kind of colors your competitors use, what colors are important to use, your typography, the imagery, all these things add to, building a visual language and a brand identity for a company. And from that, before what we were doing was we were taking all that information and applying it to a pitch deck, selling ourselves short and also like making it more difficult for the client potentially. But now it should make the whole process more easier, where when we do work on the pitch deck or work on the presentation deck, we're working off of what we've got already.
And building out a brand identity,
Yeah.
brand guidelines, brand identity package in short, essentially.
Yeah.
So by doing that and ensuring that a small business or a large business is completely happy with it, it's a solid foundation, right? Because then if we nail that with the client, that
We
can
do
be,
nail it. We do nail it.
Ali nails it. That can be used forever, right? And like,
Yeah.
and whether you're going to develop a website,
You can do it forever. So I cut you off. You can do it forever, but it was also good to update because everything changes. Like things evolve. We don't look the same we do. I used to have hair on my head. I don't have hair on my head now.
I didn't know Ali when he had Harrison said.
Yeah, so like things evolved, and like you can go back to your brand identity and update it
An update.
in due time. But then that if you do it too often, then what happens is your audience doesn't know. You're constantly
Confuse
changing.
them.
Like yeah. So you wanna, if you're update it, occasionally, but for the most part, you keep things consistent. And yeah.
On that, I always think of the best, like great brands keeping their logo and their brand colors the same almost forever. So let's look at like McDonald's, for example.
Sure, yeah.
They may have tweaked their logo, but it's essentially the exact same logo from when they started. Would you agree with that? Or?
Yeah, the double arches for sure, yeah. And then as time's gone by, like you said, they've changed the lockup, different slight variations of. I don't know if they've changed their colors. Maybe the colors that they have, the yellows and the reds, have always stayed the same. But yeah, keeping things obviously consistent, but things will change.
Awesome. So just to back up on our actual process, client intake, understanding objectives as soon as possible. We're not there to waste any time, but at the same time, we want to give the appropriate resources to really understanding the goal for the deck so that can be executed. Once that takes place, then we're usually going into ensuring that you have a solid 15 slides of content, essentially. So what do we leverage for that? How are we working on developing that actual content? I'm just gonna touch on that.
No, it's fine. Yeah. Expand on that a little bit because
So once we dive into the actual content development process, what we essentially do is create a Google Doc that's in landscape mode, right?
Yeah.
And from there, we share it with the client and we take any existing information that we have and build it out. So first slide for us typically is just the cover page.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go through the entire process of the deck. So typically in a deck, just off the top of our heads here, the classic is cover page, problem, solution, maybe diving into market analysis and showing the market analysis. But on that point, we often will, after the solution, really dive into what it is that they're offering from a high level.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure.
It's really important in a deck, I would say. And there's a lot of great pitch deck review videos out there. And honestly, I love to watch them. And honestly, it's one of those things where if you do have one person review your deck and they're brutally honest and they tear it to pieces, take it as a grain of salt.
People get too sensitive. I think you got to look at it objectively.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and there might be parts of it that make sense, and you're going to want to update that. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that are just brutal with decks and get a few different opinions, and then make your decision. If you have 3 different people across the board saying this looks horrible, then you need to update your design, of course, right? So just going back to like the different slides that we include, problem, solution, and then what we potentially will do is really dive into the introduction to the business, what they're offering. What I find across the board with a lot of decks and what we try to avoid is that people will get to slide 15 to actually communicate what it is that they're offering.
Yeah, and at that point, it's too late.
Yeah, you want to capture it immediately. It's okay to have a cover page and then to get into what problem you're solving, but in your solution slide or even right after that, you really want to knock it out of the park with some header one font of what it is that you provide, what it is that you solve, so that the audience can understand right away. Because then from there, they have that high level understanding of here's what we're solving, here's kind of the business model. And then from there, everything else just supports that. So that's key.
Yeah, definitely.
What are the slides after, cover, problem, solution, business model, market opportunity do you think of when you think of a deck that's maybe 15 slides?
Definitely, like if you got a product or service that for sure that you're trying to promote, like I mentioned before, if you've got a thing that's running already and you don't need financing and you don't need to pitch, in your presentation deck, you've got products that you're selling. You want to make sure that your products obviously stated, you've got the correct imagery, you've got information about your products to be able to promote them as best as possible.
So you have a product slide, team, usually towards the end.
Team for sure. I forgot that. So for us it's me, Kevin, and a bunch of other people. Team for sure.
I find we often put team at the end of the deck, and
towards the end,
and then a thank you page. What's the reason for putting your team slide towards the end? Do you have any reasons why?
We usually have it middle to end. I mean, you don't have it too far in the end because right at the end you're kind of wrapping up.
Right. So the reason for having the team slide towards the end, in my opinion, is when somebody's investing money into a company and they've been sold on the business opportunity, the market, the amount of capital they're investing, you want them to remember who they're investing money into, because at the end of the team, management is the number one most important thing in any business. If you have a great product or service but a horrible management team, do not invest into that company. But if you have a decent product or service but the best management team in the world, that's the company to invest into, right? So it's really key to have that team slide towards the end, in my opinion, so that whoever is reviewing the deck remembers who they're investing into. And one thing I've noticed a lot with Ali is Ali really wants to have headshots of each team member, whether it's one person or it's 10. What's your reason for having a nice little snippet of a headshot?
Headshots are very important, man, especially a lot of times if someone provides you something that doesn't look very professional, it's gonna bring the value of your deck down, your brand down, your value down. You want to make sure that everything is consistent, right? You want to make sure that when you're presenting a headshot, it's cut out correctly, and the colors, whether you're using a plain background or even if you're using a artificial background, it relates to the overall feel and imagery of the deck. The great thing with all this AI software is, if we're working with clients, they can't provide us a high-res image, and we're stuck on time, I wouldn't have to jump into Photoshop and try to manually increase the resolution. You can go on a website,
headshot.
Exactly, and increase the sharpness, and you're good to go.
Sweet. So when a pitch deck's being developed, what are the top platforms that people should consider when they're building it out? And also, which one do you like to use? I know PowerPoints are the classic.
You mean apps you use? I think reason why I use Keynote a lot is because it's
Keynote, for everyone who's using Canadian English. Keynote? Sorry.
So my voice is on, man. I'm coming off of being sick. Keynote, So Keynote is the Apple version of PowerPoint.
Sweet.
I don't use PowerPoint as much, but when we're working with clients, again, we can adapt and we can, transfer information to PowerPoint. We do usually, when working with clients, transfer everything over to PowerPoint once we're done. But just working with Keynote, I don't know, for me, it feels very fluid. And once you get used to using something, you kind of just continue using it.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, we're not just obviously designing in Keynote. When I'm designing, I'm working on Photoshop, taking assets from Illustrator, where they're designing icons, and then dragging them into Keynote.
Sounds good. So would you say top apps for people if some solopreneur or somebody out there is either looking to create their own deck or they're looking to work with us? What are the top platforms? Would you say like Keynote, PowerPoint?
I mean, even using, like, dare I say, Canva,
Canva.
Yeah, because people, like my wife, she's doing like her course and like doing presentations. She needs to create stuff, and I don't have time to do a pitch deck for her, so or even a presentation deck. So she's using Canvas. I mean, yeah, you obviously, when you're using template websites, they're great and all, but do they align with the brand visual guideline? Because if they don't, then you're kind of going back on yourself. You want to get your, like I mentioned before, you want to get the brand identity down first, and then roll everything out across different things.
So we have Canva, Microsoft Paint. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
That may be a little bit outdated, but I still remember that. Do you?
Yeah.
Did you ever use it? Okay.
Yeah,
So,
that's what started my design career, man. That's what all designers paint.
Okay, smiley faces and all that.
Yeah.
So Keynote, which most people don't know about, PowerPoint is the most well-known.
Yeah.
Canva for newer people.
Yeah, Canva's a good array, right? It's almost a one-stop shop, but yeah.
Okay. And any other honorable mentions?
That's what I can think of.
Yep. But honestly, the landscape is continuously improving, and there's very possibly other.
I mean, if you got an Adobe account, you'd use InDesign to create your decks.
Adobe InDesign. Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. How much should someone expect to pay if they're working with a professional pitch deck designer? What are the ranges here? So why don't we start off at the very bottom? I always think of a place like Canva. A place like Fiverr. What can you expect to pay on something like Fiverr?
It can vary. Each designer, I think, down to experience, will have their packages of a minimum and a maximum. Anything from
$100.
Yeah, exactly.
$100.
Yeah. $100. Then that all vary, right? Is like even with that person's package of, it's very deceiving because $100. When you click on their link, like, $100, $400, $1,000. Is like, how did it jump so drastically? Right. So I think it's almost like people want to reel you in to get you to look at other work and
So biggest pros and cons of using something like Fiverr. Would we say for pros, price? If you can, like, great. If you want to save money, price might be the biggest pro. On the con side, would it be that lack of communication?
Because we're definitely hands-on with clients, right?
You can get in, right. That's the pro of working with somebody who's going to charge a few $1,000s plus. They should be available. If they want to compete with BSBCON. They should be available 7 days a week around the clock, right? To hop into a call, no matter where you are, to get information, being on WhatsApp, emailing. So open communication's probably a pro if you spend more money.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what you're paying more money for, right? When you're paying more money, you're not paying with the idea, I'm working with this person and that's it. There's reasoning behind why you're paying a premium.
Okay. So additional pros on paying the few thousand to work with a professional. I feel that it should be an industry standard that nobody disappears and like all assets are provided at the end of the project typically.
Working file.
Right. So you have all the working file, it's yours. And if you want to reach out to someone who is paying a little bit more or that's charging a little bit more, you would be getting that guarantee that they're going to be working with you for a very long time. That if you want revisions in a year, if you want a new deck in a year, they'll be there to provide that. Would you agree that that's one of the biggest pros?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's shown, like the clients we work with, that they come back to us. They need more pages. We're able to help expand, them storytelling what it is they need.
Yeah, definitely. Pricing, low end typically for us for 15-page slide in the range of 2,900,
Yeah.
usually in that range. If anyone has ever received less than that, they received a deal. Not that too many people did, but about 2,900 for us,
Yeah.
and going up to whatever 5,000 maybe plus. We've seen from being in the space, people pay $7,000 to $8,000 range. There's a really wide variance in what people will charge and pay.
Yeah, I think also depending on where they're located, right? Location plays a big factor. The size of the company plays a big factor. Yeah, essentially what we're trying to do is help the client reach their goals, and continue building with the company that we're working with, and build that trust and that connection.
Absolutely. Somebody who's looking to develop a pitch deck, someone who just has that fire to go out and build that asset, what would you say to them if they were on the doorstep of thinking about moving ahead and work with a professional to build out a deck? Are there any things that they should be concerned of or that they should look at, or is it a no-brainer? Should they just get started? And
yeah, just like you always say, just do it, right? Just getting on with it. But definitely what helps on the client side is making sure that you've got everything you need in this presentation ready for us. Because once you get the ball rolling, you obviously want to reach your goal and present and pitch and do all these things. But if we're going back constantly refining, that's taking time out of what you need. So just having all your information, everything ready, and then we do our thing where we design it. That if you don't have a brand identity, I mean, there's been clients who've worked with where they've had brand identities, and we've been able to take that information and replicate it over into the pitch deck or presentation deck. But there's been times when we don't have anything, and then we have to explore a little bit, brainstorm.
Right. So for anyone who is interested in moving ahead with the deck, or if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. You can contact myself or Ali at info@bsbcon.com. We'd love to answer any of your questions or help you in strategizing for a deck. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll have some more content soon.